Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. In season 3, we're redefining success for social entrepreneurs looking to grow their revenue. If you have reality-changing ideas, this is the place for you. Let's jump right into today's episode. Have you ever thought about what it feels like to have your money nerve tickled? Well, our guest today is going to tell you exactly what that feels like. Meet Bob Wheeler, my friend, who will tell us about emotions, finance, and how we can bring it all together. Bob, let's hear from you. Who are you and how do you make an impact?
Wendie, well, it's great to be here. Well, hopefully I make an impact in starting to normalize conversations around personal finance and money. I found that there's so much shame around past choices and current choices, and so many people out there think they're alone. And so it's really just been my mission to just start normalizing conversations around money so people can start to let go of those past judgments.
Yes, and I love that you're here because you welcomed me on your podcast. So I'm excited to welcome you here with us today. The reason why we started talking in the first place was because I am passionate about mental health. You're passionate about money and mental health and how they come together. And we met in line at FinCon to get t-shirts.
That's right.
And we've stayed friends ever since. So can
That's
you
right.
tell me a little bit more about how you became passionate about this particular topic of finance and your feelings and emotions together?
Yeah, absolutely. So, interestingly enough, I'm a CPA by day, and I also have a somatic therapy background. So I work with people one on one. But basically, a couple things happened. I was meeting with clients, they were going out and doing the exact opposite of what seemed like practical sound advice. And I realized if I didn't understand where they were coming from emotionally, no matter what I told them, they were going to go out and do something completely different because they were operating on an unconscious, subconscious story narrative that was saying, you don't deserve this. That can't happen for me. I'm not worthy. I'm an imposter, whatever the stories were. And at the same time, I got into accounting because it was just something that came easy for me, not what I had planned to do. But I also had my own money story, and I was doing things that were not in my best interests, even though I knew better. And so I started doing some self reflection about my own self worth, about what was going on for me, as well as what was going on for my clients on their journey. And I ended up writing a book about it. And I realized, yes, I can do all the practical stuff. I can help people save money and do all those great things. But what's more important to me is understanding why we do what we do, and not just shaming people. Oh, you spend too much. That's crazy. What are you trying to not feel? What are you trying to avoid? What's the story you tell yourself or beat yourself up with? And so I just got really curious. And I just started having conversations with people, start saying, what's going on for you? And people started finding out, wait, I'm not alone. Other people think this way. Oh my God. And I just think so many of us have been taught to present instead of show up authentically. And so my goal and my hope is that people can start to feel comfortable saying, this is who I am. I'm not perfect, but I'm enough.
Oh my gosh, yes, the worth and money and all of those things together. It can be, especially if you've come from a background of not feeling positively about money, it can be very overwhelming, especially for entrepreneurs to try to change that money mindset and have a friendlier experience with money in order to generate more money. So I know I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle with that. How can you help people think about having a better sense of worth and bringing their money together? And it's kind of funny because it's like you say that worth in terms of money worth, but then worth in terms of self-value. And it
Right.
means such different things, but gosh, those things can collide together in negative ways.
For sure. And I think most of us confuse net worth with self worth. And we think we have to be a certain number. For me, it's about excavating our past, getting really uncomfortable, and starting to look at things and say, does this serve me anymore? As an accountant, I'm looking at things as at a cost benefit. What is the benefit of staying small? I don't have to fail. Nobody can judge me. What's the cost? My passion, my soul, my joy. And so, is it worth it? Am I willing to get uncomfortable? Am I willing to step into the fire so that I can actually show up in the way that I think that I'm meant to show up?
And potentially get that net worth up higher a lot. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And for entrepreneurs, right? We're constantly creating, constantly creating. A lot of times people are used to that, the struggle, and then not used to when the success comes going, oh, here's that part. No, no, no. I'm used to the struggle part. Let me get back to the struggle part. So a lot of entrepreneurs aren't so great at actually implementing once they get where they want to be. Like I had a client, she would build her business up, do amazing. And then about every 5 years, she would just torpedo it. It would fail. And I finally, after the third cycle, because I have a lot of long-term clients, I said, what do you think's going on here? Let's talk this through. Well, ultimately, she realized the only way she knows that her mom truly loves her when her mom comes to her rescue. And so when she's succeeding, mom doesn't need to tell her she loves her. And she wants mom to tell her she loves her. And so the failures were really just ways to get mom to come back into the picture.
If you're looking for funding and don't know where to start, let me introduce you to the secrets even grant writers don't know. Idea to Impact, the grant writing course that makes it easy to learn everything about grant writing from A to Z in plain English with on-demand half-hour modules and go-at-your-own-pace workbooks. This course is unlike any other because it delivers insider tips from a grant creator and grant reviewer, me. I've awarded over $35 million throughout my career, and I give you all of the resources and knowledge that you need to apply for millions of dollars on your own. No grant writer needed. Sign up today at wendybelows.com/grants. So the value of understanding that, changing that behavior and being able to say, this isn't what I want, or this isn't helping my business grow if every 5 years I'm tanking it. And then all of a sudden, there's get to the 10-year mark and I no more business, maybe I can't recover. Right. So I think that's an interesting story. And when she realized that, or when your client kind of worked through that process, did they have to get the mom involved in the healing? And was it a whole family affair? What happens after they uncover something like that?
It more became her willing to go to her mom and saying, look, I realize I'm doing this self-sabotage because I have this fear that you don't love me. I just need reassurance, right? And having that conversation. This comes up a lot with clients. They'll say, well, if I don't succeed at this business, or if I don't get this certain job, my parents won't love me anymore. So I often challenge the people that I work with one-on-one and in groups to actually go back to your parents, go back to your spouse and say, what's the dollar amount at which you'll stop loving me? And they're like, what? Because the reality is that's probably not true for most people. Most parents will say, I love you no matter what. Yes, I want you to succeed. Yes, I want you to have it easier than I did. And even if you don't, I'm still going to be there and hold space for you. But we don't have these difficult conversations. And so for her to be able to go back and say, wow, I have this void. I don't know, are you willing to work with me? And even if mom's not, to be able to get to a therapist and start to work through some of my history.
Yeah, because it ultimately becomes your problem. Eventually, mom won't be there and you'll have the problem on your own. So you, as an adult, sort of have to deal with it. And I think that's with the money things. Eventually, we all kind of come to terms with it's not something you can deny your way out of, or you can keep ignoring. I mean, the more you ignore, maybe kind of the more it gets worse. So that feeling of, I see people spiral sometimes, it's like you're on that downward loop of money thoughts and you don't know how the bottom is pretty deep, so you got to keep going down. How can people stop that spiral and start getting back to the place where they're making those healthy decisions or those proactive decisions?
I think the first important step is ask for help, ask for support. It doesn't even mean that they have to fix it for you. Just let somebody else know, man, financially, I'm in over my head. I'm freaking out. I'm having dark thoughts. I don't know what to do. That right there takes off so much pressure. It doesn't fix it, but at least now you're not alone. You've got an ally. And I think that's the most important thing, is to actually ask for help, which a lot of us don't do. I refused it for years. And it's not weakness to ask for it. It's smart, it's courageous, it's heroic. And once we can get a little bit of support, we didn't get there in a day. We're not going to get out of it in a day, right? So look for the small wins. What can I do so I can sort of feel good? Oh, it's happening. And then just day by day, step by step, spoon by spoon, right? We're not going to eat the whole elephant. We're just bite, a little bite. We're going to take little bits until it starts to be manageable and tolerable.
And I think even in my experience, when I had dark money thoughts, probably the first year of entrepreneurship where I made like zero cash, I I don't know think I knew I could have called Bob, right? Like I knew you, but I don't think I ever knew that you were a resource that I could just say, "Hey, friend who knows about these things intimately, I'm having a problem here. Help me work this out." Or who do I call? Or what book do I read? Or what resource do I do? I think people just don't genuinely have this sense of who in their network to call or they could call. So, is this something you call your CPA with? And like, or, your CPA might be like, so I don't know. What's the answer?
So some CPAs would be receptive. It might be a financial advisor. It might be a financial therapist. It might be just a therapist. And here's the thing, you don't need 8,000 people to help you, but the first 10 might say no. So you have to keep asking. It's just like going for that job or something you really want. Just don't stop at the first rejection. Hey, I've got this thing going on. Or tell a couple friends, hey, I'm looking for some help. Do you know anybody? There's a lot of great resources online these days, thankfully. But start looking, like start seeking. I want something different. What are the tools that I need to start helping me get out of my current situation?
Yeah, and you just named sort of the dream team of people that I discovered accidentally. I mean, my financial advisor is one of my best friends since first grade. My CPA, I have two CPAs, but I also met a bookkeeper recently and I brought her on too. So I've got like this team of people who have been helping me through the process, and then even insurance advisors, like all these other things. And I think as a small business, when I went into it, you hear the title solopreneur and you literally think it's you with all these other things, and you don't realize that you have to invite these other people into your business because
Yeah.
they have a place and expertise that you don't have and can help you when you get to those hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. You need a team. Even my CPA practice, I make it clear to all my clients, it's a team of people that are helping them. It's not just me. And so most of my clients will say, Dear Bob and team, right? Or now it's Dear Shelley, Bob and team, because I want people to know I'm not doing all this on my own. I have a team of people that I want to recognize and appreciate. And I know I don't know everything. And if we know we don't know everything, it makes it so much easier to let go of ego instead of trying to, oh, I should know that. No, I don't know. Let me find out. I'll get back to you.
I can tell you I don't know how QuickBooks works. I don't ever want to, and I really am horrible at QuickBooks. So I know my limitations.
And that's important too, right? Know what your strengths are, know where your weaknesses are, and don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, and this podcast is all about that idea of, you're trying to get to somewhere and you can only go so far. And then you have to kind of reflect, okay, I can get better and I move incrementally towards my vision. But at some point, I have to stop and do that reflection. And I think finance is one of those places where if you don't stop and do the reflection or have someone who's regularly doing it for you, you can get into a world of problems. And so, how often do you have these kinds of conversations with your team? I mean, I know how often I talk to my team, but how often do you kind of recommend people check in with their financial support team?
Well, ideally, if you're not quite where you want to be, at least once a month. If you're where you want to be, a lot of my clients, we check in every 3 months or every 6 months. But when I'm working with people that are deep in it, it might be weekly. It because when you're first trying to dig out of it, man, you need a lot of support usually, right? You just need those guide rails that are just helping you. Okay, let me stay the course. Let me stay the course. Once you start to get comfortable, yeah, I don't need Bob so much right now, but I know he's there, right? And then we start to get more comfortable. But initially, I think you need to focus on it a bit more, almost obsessive, so that you can start to actually shift those habits, those patterns, and those thinking that take you down rabbit holes.
All the brain science pieces that come to mind when you're talking
Yeah,
about this. And it's
NLP.
holistic well-being. Finance is always about one of those pieces that can really unlock other things for you. So the better your finances are, the more opportunities you have to give back and do other things with your money, make your money work for you, invest, all these other options. So of course, staying in that negative space, it's really not helping you overall, but it's also not helping you make a bigger impact. So I think that, it's one of those places where I try to stop and reflect every month with the things I've spent, but also the team, quarterly. And also right now, and, this is like tax season. It's like all hands on deck. Oh my God, what's happening? But I appreciate having the idea of a team.
It's so important. And I also think whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, whether you have kids, whether you're taking care of elder parents, having a self check in and do I need anything? Am I where I want to be? Do I need to make some modifications? Do I need to pivot? One of the things that I use as a blueprint, whether it's finance, whether it's diet, whether it's getting healthy, whatever it might be, I have this what, why, what. What, why, what? What do I want? Why do I want it? Why don't I have it? What am I willing to do to get it? And it can be, why do I want it? Because I want to look super cool and impress everybody. That's okay, right? There's no judgment here. But if we can understand what we want, why we want it, why we don't have it, people will judge me. People will try to take it from me. What am I willing to do? Now, for me, it's got to be an integrity. But like everybody has their measurements. But if you can start to look at that, whether it's, like I said, diet or finance, but I started out with this as money because why don't I have it? Oh, I have these limiting beliefs. What am I willing to do? I'm willing to let go of the past. I'm willing to forgive myself. I'm willing to work harder. I'm willing to get up an extra hour early. Whatever those things be, emotional or practical, getting clear about it.
And then taking the steps to change the behaviors and to move forward.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you some questions about you, because I think
Yeah.
that, we talked about your topic a lot, and I think that people would benefit from really understanding who you are as a person, but that's just me as a friend knowing you. I'm curious, at what point in your life when you were growing up and you decided, I want to help other people, I want to give back, and I want to serve others, as opposed to just, you're a smart dude, you can make a ton of money.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I've always felt the need to be of service, or feeling that was an important component. Maybe because I didn't feel worthy to receive, it was better to give. But I'm aware of a couple things. I'm aware that I had a lot of guardian angels. I'm aware that a lot of people saw my potential even when I didn't. And so I'm grateful for that. So I feel like I have to pay that forward in so many ways that happened for me. The other piece is, I was sort of drifting. I wasn't sure if I really wanted to be here or not. I didn't know, like, I wasn't creating all of this traction that I thought I should be creating. And one night I woke up just in the middle of the night, and I just had this like message, like, you better get ready. Like, you need to get ready. And I'm like, for what? Right. I was terrified of public speaking. I spent most of my life walking around in complete fear. Like, everything was life or death. Even making decisions to walk into a group full of strangers was like, felt like death to me. And so I started doing martial arts. I started Toastmasters. I just started trying to get all these skills so that I could at least get closer to the perception of me, making it more of a reality. And look, I just did the work for like 15 years. I'm just like self-reflecting, looking at the ugly pieces of me. And it got dark, and I finally got to a place where I was able to say, wow, I actually do want to be here. I am enough, and I have something to offer, and I'm going to bring it. And even if my voice is shaking, even if I don't do it perfectly, and I'm not dressed nice enough, like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up.
That's such a huge decision to just fight through the dark places and say, no, I'm going to take what I feel is my purpose and do something with it. And I know exactly what you mean. You have that voice that's like, hey, get off your butt and go do this thing. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'm gonna maybe do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. Now, I love this because this season we want to talk about redefining success. And the
Mm-hmm.
story you just told is an absolute redefinition of what you were doing before. So how
Yeah.
did you come out the other side seeing, the value in what you made that choice to do and where you were going? And what did success look like at that point then?
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, success was like hitting all my marks, making a certain amount of money, having a certain list of accomplishments. And I was just running from one accomplishment to the next. Look what I did. Look what I did. Oh, next. Okay, next. Like I couldn't even stop and enjoy it because I was just running so fast to get to the next thing. And that was socialization. I got involved with an organization called Radical Aliveness, which is a somatic based leadership program. And the founder had said, like, here's a place where you can actually thrive and where there's community and you can actually transform yourself. And I'm like, yeah, BS. I was like kicking and screaming, no way. But I knew there was some truth to it. And doing that work was incredibly painful, incredibly difficult. But when I started to go through it and I saw that leadership doesn't have to be me telling you what to do, but leadership might be collaboration, or leadership might be letting my staff have a voice, or creating safe spaces for people, for my clients. And I just really started focusing on relationships and in my business, in my personal life, and figuring out what really matters to me. How do I want to show up? And am I doing this with integrity? Because that's a real important piece to me, like that I'm getting there in a way that feels good. And I just decided that's how I want to show up in the world. I want to be able to stop presenting. And if things are not good, be able to say, I'm not good today. I need a break. Or, yeah, it didn't work out the way I wanted it, but I'm still here. And actually just getting comfortable with myself of saying, yeah, sometimes I'm going to get up and be really awkward. I'm still going to get up and I'm still going to have a voice, and I want other people to know that they have a voice and that their voice has value. And it's so important that we hear all these different voices.
Yeah, and I think that's a great reminder to people that you can do it badly and it's so like people are still going to support you. You could be super awkward. That's okay. It's all a process that we're going through. And I love the idea that, you know, you can shift from these arbitrary metrics that we maybe have been measuring ourselves against for our profession or from inherited from other people or employers. But when you're the person who's making the choices in the business and you're the one who can decide how your team runs and what kind of foundation you build that business on. I love that you brought up words like integrity and teamwork and recognizing other people's value. Like those are ways to work that demonstrate a certain leadership style that not every entrepreneur has. So you decided to kind of like build that into your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had several former employees tell me that I ruined them for life because they felt like they could bring whatever was going on and that I would make space for it, even if I didn't always agree with it or implement it. They got to have a voice. And I think a lot of leadership is not comfortable with that. And we have to be, my opinion, we as leaders have to be comfortable being challenged, being questioned, and being willing to look at something and say, oh, I was wrong, or oh, I didn't see it that way. If I'm perfect, that leaves no room for anything, and it just feeds ego. And then I have to destroy people that try and mess with my ego. If I can actually authentically just show up and know that I'm not always right and be willing to hear other points of view, like it's just going to go so much further in my book.
Yeah, especially when you're first hiring people or bringing on a team, going from small shop to medium size or whatever it is, those thoughts are really important because you're going to have to frame how you describe what you do or the culture or how people interact with each other, what the expectation is for communication. All of those things are important. And if you're like lackadaisical on that or maybe a little lazy on that, you'll probably find that the culture that you inherit is not the one that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you, I've hired a couple people that took advantage of the situation, right? And so I'm not saying that everybody came in and got on board with my vision, and that's okay too, because that showed up pretty quickly. I'm like, thank you for your service, and you can move on now. But yeah, I think you've got to be super clear, and you actually have to put some work into it. It doesn't just magically happen just by coincidence.
Yeah, yeah, especially team structure. I could see
Mhm.
how those are deliberate decisions and how you bring people in and how do you explain to them their role, all of those kinds of things. So I love that you brought this conversation. Again, these are all insights that I know because I know you as a person. but I want to make sure that our listeners can uncover these too. So the other value that I see in your work that I admire a lot because I have not been able to espouse is just the comedy aspect. You bring, and I mentioned it at the top, so I wanted to make sure that we get to the teaser. You do tickle people's money nerve, and you do it in such a beautiful way that I it's so authentic to your style that even I couldn't just start putting outfits on and mimic it, right? But can you tell people where that creativity comes from and just describe it for folks who haven't maybe seen your content before?
Yeah. So for me, comedy is a great disarmor. It's a way to reach people without shaming them, doing it in a fun way. I mean, you can certainly use humor to shame people, but I don't. I try to tell stories, or I try to do things that people can look at that and go, oh, oh, that's me, right? And I'm like, oh, is it? Oh, yeah, I guess there is a, right? I don't want to like, I want people to have the space to discover it themselves and not me force them to see it. And I find that humor is just such a universal language. Even when I travel to other countries and they don't speak a lick of English, because I'm pretty singularly monolingual. And being able to use humor and physical actions or just connections and seeing people laugh, it's a way to connect with people that feels empowering, it feels healing, and it feels connecting. And so I try to, I love laughing. If we can't laugh, oh my God, we're in so much trouble. We're in so much trouble.
Yeah, it's like the boss I had who told me that we weren't allowed to have fun at work. I'm like, "What?" So I made fun part of my business because I believe that we should be having fun while we're doing work. It makes work better. So
No, absolutely. And I used to tell employees when they would come into my office, I'd say, look, you're going to see us all laughing and having a lot of fun, but let me tell you what, we do a lot of work. So don't mistake us having fun for not working. And because we're working, which is why we can laugh and play.
yeah, and also I think you can laugh and play and work more when you're laughing and playing than if you're miserable
Yeah,
and crying. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
it's the wrong
Absolutely.
vibe, I think, at work. So the last question before we kind of wrap up that I wanted to ask you is if you had something that you could tell someone who's, making an impact, working in a business, trying to do good, working in a nonprofit and doing this sort of as the leader, the person that, who has the vision, what would be a piece of advice or some resource or something that you could share with that person that might transform their journey?
I mean, what comes to mind is follow your passion. For me, we're here to feed our souls. And like that may not resonate for everybody, but that's for me, we're here to feed our souls. And so if I'm not following my passion, I ask myself, am I having fun? Am I enjoying this? Because if I'm not, I need to pivot out. And I've said to people, this isn't fun for me. I'm leaving, whether that's been a relationship, whether that's been a business, whether it's been working for somebody. For me, if we show up with our passion, if we show up with our joy, like how do we not impact the rest of the team, the people around us, our friends and family? And even if I'm doing something that's temporary, if I can come in and find the gratitude in that temporary situation instead of like, oh, I'm so angry that I have to do this to get to the next step, if we can just really cultivate our gratitude, I just think it makes the world a better place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Coming from a place of gratitude is always, I think, a good step in any time in your journey to move forward. Just being able to reflect on where you've been and be grateful even for where you've gotten to at this point is important. So last question for you is where can we find you and what do you have coming up that we can anticipate seeing in the next little bit?
Yeah, so themoneynerve.com, that's nerve, not nerd. I'm a money nerd, but it's themoneynerve.com. Uh, you can reach out to me through that. We have online courses, we have consulting, we've got great free resources, lots of fun social media stuff to just get you thinking about what's going on. I've got a podcast, Money You Should Ask, and really just work. If anybody wants to engage in a conversation about money, feel free to reach out. We do enjoy reaching back out to people. And I've got a couple of books out. I've got a children's book, Darius Wants a Dog. I've got The Money Nerve, Navigating the Emotions of Money. And we're working on a couple of projects that'll probably be coming out in May. Some more books. And check it out. Follow us. we'd love to be in conversation.
Oh, yeah. And I have been on Bob's podcast, so I can attest to that it's a wonderful place to go and learn and hear other people like me who come and talk about money, finance, and all the other things that you, I mean, it was just actually a really fun interview. So I don't even think we talked just on money and finance today. But it's been great to have you, my friend. I absolutely love talking to you. I could talk to you for hours, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending your time with us. I know actually Bob is taping this during tax season, so you know how important of an individual in an interview this is. But I really just wanted to say thank you again to you and your team for the work that you do to support everyone in their journey with money and feeling better about it.
Well, thank you, Wendie. I appreciate it. I love to have these conversations. It feels so important because there's so many people out there that are struggling, feeling shame, feeling judged, and they're not alone. We're not alone. And so anytime I can have these opportunities to just share and hopefully let people know there is hope, just reach out for help. So
yes, thank you for being here. And thank you, listeners, for being here for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to having you come back. If you are curious about something we shared, make sure that you check down in the show notes below. And if you're ready to grow your revenue, I have a little gift for you. Download my Revenue for Impact guidebook at wendieveloz.com/guide. See you next episode.